My story is I was born in country Australia, moved to the Netherlands after finishing my law degree and became a finance lawyer. And to the outside world, it really looked like I'd made it very successful, very big firm, very prestigious role. But on the inside, I was really miserable. But I wasn't willing to acknowledge it in myself until I collapsed at an airport. And I started crying and I couldn't stop. And it was a real sort of snap moment when I look back. I was in a deep burnout, but at the time I was very reluctant to even use the term burnout because there's so much stigma still attached to it. Eventually, I was able to quit law. I moved into teaching yoga and meditation, running retreats. Eventually, I got curious about burnout, wrote a couple of books about it, and I now speak and research burnout in order to really help people understand some of its root causes and to put a focus on how we can really take care of ourselves, particularly in the context of our work lives. So connecting with other people is really a basic human psychological need. We unfortunately live, most of us, in very individualistic societies, and we have this very pervasive narrative that we have to do everything by ourselves and we should be able to achieve everything all by ourselves, when in fact, inherent to the human experience, we are social beings. We need other people, not only in order to function, to live, but also to be able to thrive. This can really be, I think, something that we underestimate the importance of. We all sort of assume, I think, because we're, especially if we live in a big city, we're surrounded by people. We often are using our devices a lot. So we have this idea that we're somehow connected, but we really do need to take active steps to ensure that we're meeting that deep need that we have for social connection. And that goes for all of us, even if we're quite introverted through to extremely extroverted, whatever our personality type is, feeling connected, that is feeling seen, heard, and understood by other people, is critical to our well-being. So when we're working in a hybrid environment, and certainly also when we're leading in a hybrid environment, it adds an extra dynamic of challenge in terms of ensuring that we feel connected. But I think in some ways, we focus almost too much on the challenges that it creates, rather than looking at what can be done and how some of the things that we do when we're face to face in person can actually be translated to and replicated in a hybrid environment. What's really key to ensuring optimal sense of connection and engagement at work is taking the time to build connections and build relationships that are founded on respect and trust. It's not something that we can just switch a flick and suddenly we're connected. It takes time, and humans need that time and space. And I think particularly for leaders, when they take the time to really understand the person, their motivation and needs, and connect with them in that meaningful way, that really drives a strong sense of social connection. It's also, in a hybrid environment, really important to think about the impact of certain decisions on people. For example, if you're running a meeting and some people are online and some people are in person, really thinking about how you can make sure that the people who are online feel like they are a part of that meeting and just as important as those who might be there in person. And so it can take some time and some effort to sort of design in ways of doing that. It's also really important to seek feedback from other people on how that's landing for them. But it certainly is, I think, just as much possible to create a sense of connection when we're working in a hybrid environment as it is when we're working 100% in person. Absolutely not. I mean, it's perhaps by some fluke if you're, I never say never, but I really do think that it's something that is so core to our ability to thrive at work and beyond, is really prioritizing our well-being. And this sometimes means quite fiercely prioritizing, because often our culture will tell us to keep working, to push through, to say yes when we should say no. And all of us are busy, and we are often put in positions where we are expected to, or are being asked to actually do more than is really good for our well-being. And I think for a lot of us, it's about really focusing on the fact that in order to have a great and long and sustainable career, we need to be well, we need to be healthy. And some people work in an environment where that is facilitated, and that's beautiful if your workplace is very much supportive of, not only in words but also in deeds, in terms of the environment that they create, and the focus that they provide on individual and team well-being. But often for many of us, it really does fall back to us to really tap into an almost fierce sense of self-worth, of self-knowledge. So really knowing and understanding who we are as unique individuals and what our needs are. And then self-awareness as well, so that we can really be very attuned to the signals that we're receiving from our bodies, from our emotions, from our thoughts, on whether we are actually looking after ourselves or not. And our bodies will usually give us some signals when that's not the case, and we need to be very attentive to those. Maybe a bit sneaky and alpha 4. So one of the really practical models that I developed in my second book, it's basically the word burnout, and then you drop the vowels and you have BRNT. So these areas of where we can focus our efforts for well-being. Our B is breathe. So doing any sort of practice that connects you with your physical body, that can be your breath, that might be exercise, but really starting to tune into the signals the body is giving you through connecting with our breath. The second is rest. So this means obviously sleep, but also making sure you get rest during the day, at weekends, and also ensuring to the extent possible that holidays will also have that requisite level of disconnection for us really to restore our energy levels. N is for nourish. And that's not just what we eat and drink. It's really about everything we consume. That includes news media, social media, even the environment that we live in. So really being very mindful about making choices that nourish who you are as the unique person that you are. And finally, and this is the most important part, Catherine, it's talk. So T for talk. And this really reflects that need for social connection that we all have. It's so important for us to build, to foster, to nurture safe relationships and connections where we can talk about what's going on for us, whether that's good or bad, up and down. And so really taking the time and effort to be vulnerable and to really foster and nourish really strong social connections puts us in a position to cope better and faster with challenges as and when they arise.